Is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show Playoff Edition. I am your host, Josh Harris. As you saw at the beginning of the day, if you are awake, this is going to be our last show of the season, last day of April, last 4-game slate. So we figured, why not just end the season on a high note here, so we don't, like when players hang on too long and they need to retire. Alex Ovechkin. But we're going to go out on a high note. The GPPs on DraftKings are decent for the playoffs. We'll obviously be around in Discord, on Twitter and stuff if you still want to ask us questions, but this is going to be our last show of the season. Joining me, as always, partner in crime, Slim Cliffy. What's going on?
Not a whole lot, man. Beautiful day outside here today. So I'm definitely not going to complain about that. Pretty wild Dallas-Vegas game last night. I mentioned it on Twitter. Like, I kind of feel bad. And you said you fell asleep during the Panthers-Lightning game. Josh, a little bit sleep-deprived with the young one in the house.
I had a colonoscopy over the weekend, so they drugged me up. I was still messed up. So
yeah. So I'm not going to fault you for that, but for like, a lot of people, they go to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock because of work the next day or whatever. They're missing out on Dallas and Vegas, which I like, for my money, has been the best series of the first round so far. And it's not just because it's tied 2-2. It's like Edmonton and Los Angeles, like, other than that one game that went to overtime, like, Edmonton's been pretty much beating their brains in. Colorado, Winnipeg's been kind of the same thing. Nashville, Vancouver, like, there was that crazy finish. Otherwise, Vancouver just doesn't seem interested in generating offense whatsoever. The Caps got swept, and the rest, Florida, Tampa, there were some close games, but Florida seemed pretty much in control just about from start to finish. Like, there hasn't been a lot of surprises. We'll get to Colorado, Winnipeg. I think the one surprise that really stands out, obviously, is Colorado is just beating the piss out of Winnipeg. And it's not that it's completely unexpected for Colorado to have a great game where the offense just kind of shells somebody. Like, they're good enough to do that. It's that they've done it for 4 games in a row to a level where this legitimately looks like the San Jose Sharks going up against Colorado. And I'm not being facetious whatsoever. If you look at their expected goals against numbers, they're pretty much as bad as the San Jose Sharks were in the regular season. So all that's to say, like, the one series that has really kept attention and been really interesting is Vegas and Dallas. And all I can implore people is that, if you don't necessarily have to get up super early the next morning, even if you kind of do, I think it'd be worth checking out what's probably going to be the only 7-game series. I hope at least they go 7 of the first round between Vegas and Dallas, because those have been some, like, very, very exciting games.
yeah, I mean, like, in the Western Conference, any of the Western Conference Finals matchups wouldn't surprise me. Like, Dallas Vegas could have been the Western Conference final matchup, and I wouldn't even blink an eye. But we get it in the first round, so that's really nice. As long as Dallas keeps Wyatt Johnston on that top line, I think they're going to eke it out. If they bring Pavelski back up onto that top line, I don't think they're going to win. But hopefully it goes 7. Nothing like Game 7s in any sport, in any playoffs, really. Hockey's insane, but yeah. East, round 2, knock on wood, should be better. Can't get much worse than round 1. Got a couple of super chats here from Pigpen419, $20 super chat. Thank you very much. Thanks for a very profitable season of advice. Couldn't have done it without you, boys. Thank you for tuning in and taking that advice. I know Cliffy is very analytical and smart. I'm a little bit of a loose cannon, but appreciate you tuning in all season. I'm glad you had a good season. We also have a $50 super chat from Clayton. Thank you for the insight, articles, and laughs this season. You both are the best at what you do. Thank you very much, Clayton. Clayton, basically our chat moderator, unofficially. He doesn't get paid. He should. But yeah, thank you guys very much for the super chats.
Yeah, thanks, Pigpen. Glad we could help you win a little bit of money here this season. Ultimately, that's what we're here to do. We do try to inform and entertain and all that, but our job is basically to help people win money at NHL DFS. So I'm glad that worked out. Thanks a lot for the super chat. It certainly means a lot to us. And yes, of course, thank you, Clayton, for that $50 super chat. That's very generous. And he is kind of like you said, the moderator of our chat. He's always asking interesting questions as well, and that's something that I really appreciate. It goes deeper than just who's playing on which line, and when the thing is like when people ask interesting questions, it doesn't just help the person asking the question, it helps other people in the chat as well. So really appreciate you, Clayton. Thanks for all the support over the year, and hopefully we can help our Discord keep it going a little bit here as the playoffs wear on. Are you okay there, man?
I don't know what my internet's doing. I'm in and out. Just give me a second here. Here I am.
Yeah.
Last show of the season wouldn't be a show without internet issues in rural New Jersey. Hold on here. I was kind of hoping it would not be this bad this early because I wanted to thank some people, but I'm going to do that at the end, it seems. Can you guys see me and hear me okay?
Yeah.
I can't tell because on my end, everything's frozen.
Yeah, no, we can see you well enough and we can hear you fine.
Okay. Thought Josh was getting emotional there for a second. No. Not on the outside. On the inside, maybe. Before we get started, we got another super chat, though. A $9.99 super chat from Gabagoo. You got to say it like that. Thank you very much for being annoying with betting talk in the Discord for the rest of the playoffs. That's perfectly fine, man. I bet more than Cliffy does. I know Cliffy does bet futures and that kind of stuff. I don't know if he bets as much day to day. I do. Yeah, I'm fine with the questions. I'm sure Cliffy is too. Or he's shaking his head no. He said, "Screw you, Gabagool." No, I'm sure he'll
no, I was just shaking my head like, no, I don't bet on a day to day. I'll bet points futures and cup futures and stuff like that. But it's more just planting a flag for the season on teams and players I believe in more than anything else. But yes, thank you a lot for the $10 super chat. Certainly appreciate you in the Discord as well. Let's hope again that we can have a good rest of the playoffs from here on out.
Yeah, let's get into this slate as my internet tries to work itself out here. Toronto Maple Leafs, they 2.7 total heading into Boston. The Panthers, the Bruins have a 3.2 total. As Willie Nylander says, this isn't fucking junior hockey. It looks like the Leafs are playing some junior hockey. The issue here is Matthews is sick. I don't he has some kind of illness. I don't know. It has to be some kind of respiratory type deal. Don't want to guess, but that seems likely. I don't want to guess as I guess. But if he's out tonight, Leafs are in trouble. They're in trouble if he plays anyway. They just haven't looked interested in this series. I don't know if that's the right word, but they got Nylander back. They're fighting on the bench. I don't know. They're in Boston. I have a hard time seeing them winning if Matthews is out. I will say from a DFS perspective, if Matthews is out, Willie Nylander is going to make for a very good one-off here tonight. I want to get behind Marner, but he's looked like ass. whether he's hurt or not, like he's just looked awful this series. He's getting knocked off pucks. He hasn't been physical. Whatever it is, like even if Matthews is in, I'm leaning towards just playing a one-off Nylander as it is. Like I just don't see, even if Matthews in, him being close to 100%. He's been sick all series, so I don't know. Like, do I want to see this series extended and the Leafs heartbroken in Game 6 on home ice? Sure, but like I don't think it's going to get there. My interest lies on the Boston side, but I see this Boston top line, Pastrnak, DeBrus, Zacha, with 20.4% projected ownership, and I just don't want to play that line at 20% for reasons that Cliffy outlined on the last show. They just don't play a ton of minutes. Like Pasternak's been playing 17 minutes. I don't want to pay that price for 17 minutes when I can just pay a couple $100 more for McKinnon, who's going to play 24, 25 minutes. So if anything on the Boston side, it would be that Marchand Coyle Geeky line. And I just don't want a full stack them either. I think a one-off Marchand is fine. A one-off Geeky is fine. I think stack, but like again, like I don't think I'm going to be prioritizing this game in single entry. You know, I would much rather play some Carolina, some Colorado. Winnipeg has new lines, some Vancouver, you know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to prioritize this game from a DFS standpoint.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn here for this reason. Is like Boston does have a 3.2 team total, right? And it's the same team total as Carolina. It's the same team total as Winnipeg, and it's just behind Colorado's 3.3. So like, clearly, there's some goals expected here. There's a couple problems. One of the problems you outlined with Pastrnak in them is ice time, right? Like Pasternak's at 1843 per game, and as you mentioned, McKinnon's 10,200, Pasternak's 9,000 on DraftKings. Another $1,200 gets you like an additional 5 minutes of ice time. Like that's pretty worth it. And the other issue is Pastrnak has been missing the net a lot. Things do tend to tighten up a little bit in the playoffs, and we'll get to Carolina. They're missing the net a lot as well. But Pasternak's only landing 35% of his shot attempts on goal. And if he's doing that, it takes him from an elite volume shooter to a good one. And all of a sudden it takes those shot bonuses away a little bit. So it's one of those things that can turn on a dime, and it's just happening in a small sample. And if you were to play 80 games, it would kind of even itself out. But for now, it's just really hard to rely on. I honestly kind of like the Marchand line a little bit better for this reason. Even if Matthews plays, he's clearly nowhere near 100%. I would say he's nowhere near even like 90% health. He did look bad on Saturday. Clearly, there's some sort of illness that's dragging him down. Like they said he was on the ice for morning skate today for 8 minutes. So even if he plays, like what kind of shape is he in? If he doesn't play, all of a sudden the top line is centered by Max Domi. They're not going to be very good defensively. So I think Geeky, Marchand, and Pasta perfectly fine to play. I was looking at Geeky and Marchand's numbers this season because they did have a reasonable sample, 80 minutes without David Pastrnak next to them. 65 shot attempts, 3.3 expected goals. Like that's pretty good. And, that Boston line is priced down to a point, that Marchand Coyle Geeky line priced down to a point, 13,800, where they're not getting a ton of ownership because they're not quite filler stack enough for Colorado, but they're not getting, they still have a good top two stack is what I'm trying to say. So like, I don't mind that line, especially where that's the unit that has been doing the damage on the power play, and Toronto's penalty kill has been as bad as Winnipeg's. And we mentioned it on the last show. I think it was on Saturday. The Leafs were a bottom 25% of the league penalty kill over like the last 3 months of the season. And it's just carried over into the playoffs. So if you got that line going out against Max Domi and against a bottom quarter of the league power play, like I really like Marchand Coyle and Geeky here. I think other than that, like, if you're playing 20 lineups or whatever, like a Pastrnak one-off, I think is just fine. I wrote up James Van Riemsdyk in the picks article. Like, he's got good shot volume. He scored in the last game. The game before, he hit the post. Like, this is a guy that looked like he got a week or so off to rest and now is a little bit rejuvenated. There's not a ton of minutes there, but especially on FanDuel where he's only 3,600, I think he makes sense as a one-off. I think that Boston third line is in play as one of the lines you can use with Colorado if you stack them, but it's the Marchand line I like best. On the Toronto side, until we know if Matthews is in or out, it's tough to say exactly what to play. I feel pretty confident saying I'm not going to stack the Leafs here tonight. Even if Matthews is in. I do like Nylander because he's only 7K on DraftKings. We've seen his price in the 8Ks quite a bit, and he played almost 23 minutes in that game that he came back. Now, he didn't look his best, but he also had 10 days off, right? Like, maybe that game just shook off a little bit of rust, and now especially if Matthews is out, he's going to have to play 23 to 25 minutes again. I really do like Nylander at 7K on DraftKings. I think he's only 7,900 on FanDuel, so he's not even that expensive. I do like him as a one-off. Like, if you want to use like Bertuzzi or something as a one-off, I think that's fine, but I'm not stacking anything from the Toronto side. For me, like, I kind of agree with you. Like, even if Matthews is in, this is a Boston game for me. I like the Marchand line as a stack, but I do think there are viable one-offs from the forwards on both sides.
Yeah. Like, in an ideal world, Toronto finds a way to win this game and then they get blown out at home in game 6. But, that's not DFS relevant. I just want to see it. New York Islanders with a 2.2 total. Heading into Carolina, the Hurricanes have a 3.2 total. Carolina mixing up their depth lines. Carolina 1 still the same of Gensel, Aho, Svechnikov. Carolina 2 is now Jarvis, Teravainen, Stahl, and then Netchus, Martinook, Drury. Fourth line, Kuznetsov, Nason, Kotkaniemi. Top line still wagon. And they've been sending them out at home against the Barzal-Horvat line, which has been atrocious this series. They've been bad. I do really, really like Carolina 1 here tonight. If you don't want to spend all the way up for Colorado 1, you're getting about $4,000 discount here. They're 23.9% top 2 stack, 11.3% projected ownership. They're going to get a good 5-on-5 matchup. They're not fully correlated on the power play, but you do get Aho and Gensel on the top unit, Svechnikov on the second unit. I think as a spend-up option, they're my favorite option, obviously, besides Colorado 1, which we'll get to in a little bit. The Carolina depth is a bit interesting because Stahl and Jarvis have good numbers together, but that's mostly been with Martinook. Teravainen's a much different player than Martinook. I think Jarvis is a very good one-off still. I'm not sure how Teravainen fits onto that line because Stahl's a good playmaker. Teravainen isn't much of a shooter. He's not the best playmaker. He's just kind of, he's a good player. He's like good at everything, not great at anything. So like, I'm not exactly sure how he fits onto that line. That being said, they're 12,800. They're a filler line that I would play. I prefer just to one-off Jarvis on that line. I think Drury, Martinook, Netchus is interesting as well, and they're 11,300. Martinook is a shooter. Netchus is just a good all-around player, and I think Drury's a pretty good facilitator. So if I had to full stack the depth lines, I think it would be that Drury, Martinook, Netchus line, but I think if outside of Carolina 1, Seth Jarvis would be my favorite one-off. On the Islander side, like, I know they won the other day at just 2.2 road total going into Carolina. If anything, it would be Palmieri, Nelson. I'm not going to prioritize them in single entry. If you're playing 20 lineups, having a little bit of Palmieri, Nelson's fine. Like, I know Horvat, Barzal are going to avoid Stahl now, but like Aho, Gensel, Svechnikov have been a wagon themselves, so it's not like they're getting a defensive discount there. That line has been very good at both ends of the ice. So if anything on the Islander side, it would be Nelson and Palmieri.
Yeah, I wrote up Stahl Jarvis, the Stahl and Jarvis line in the picks article. We'll see when warm-ups start. I'm still not convinced that they're going to put Teravainen in there. Like, I don't even know. I get why they changed it up because it was a close game last game, but it's just I agree with you. I don't really know how Teravainen fits in on that line because I'd say more than anything, he's a playmaker, but Jarvis kind of is as well. And it's not like Stahl is a great finisher. You know what I mean? It's like, who are you playmaking for? Like, Jarvis is a good goal scorer, don't get me wrong, but I think if I want Teravainen to help set people up, it would be people like Necas, it would be people like Martinook, it would be people like Svechnikov. You know what I mean? Either way, I kind of agree with you on that Martinook, Drury, Necas line. Just because they're cheaper, and if you're stacking Colorado 1, which is why you would use that Necas, Martinook, Drury line, a $1,500 savings over the Stahl Jarvis line is a lot, right? Like, it is a lot when Colorado 1 is going to take up nearly half your salary on DK or over half your salary on FanDuel. Drury and Necas were actually good together this during the regular season. 370 minutes together, 3.2 expected goals, 2.8 actual goals per 60 minutes. Necas is second on the team in shot attempts per 60 in the playoffs, and this was a guy that basically from the All-Star break onward was one of the better volume shooters on Carolina. Now, the issue is that they're not going to get much ice time. Gensel, Aho, Svechnikov led the team in ice time in the last game. Jarvis was number 4. Stahl was number 5. Like, this is that Necas Martinook Drury line will be used as a true third line, like 12 to 14 minutes. That's kind of tough, but at 11,300, you don't need them to have like 3 goals and 2 shot bonuses or something like that. You know what I mean? So I'm perfectly fine going to Necas Martinook Drury, especially where Martinook's shot volume has really picked up in the playoffs. So I do like that line. I agree with you there. Jarvis does make a good one-off. Jarvis is like, he's the ultimate Swiss Army knife. He's kind of like the Eastern Conference Kevin Fiala, I think, at this point, where like, play him on the third line, play him on the second line, play him on the top line, play him on the power play, play him at the end of games, like all that stuff. Like, that's just basically Jarvis. And that's why, like, even if he's not on the top line, there are games where he will have the most ice time of any of their wingers, even if he's on the second or third line. It's because they use him everywhere in all situations. So I agree with you. I do like Jarvis as a one-off. The top line is a little bit tougher for me. They don't get me wrong, they have been rolling the Islanders top line. They haven't been scoring, and it's not like Svechnikov's shot rate is where you want it to be. It's been about 17 attempts per 60 minutes at at all strengths, sorry. And this is a guy that there are seasons in the past where he's like 20, 21, 22. He's been more of the same that he was earlier in the year. Now, he's definitely had some very productive games. A lot of that was because of the power play, and he's had an inconsistent role between power play 1 and power play 2. So I think Carolina 1 is perfectly playable here, but just the way I'm thinking about building lineups here tonight, I think it's that Necas line that I have more interest in. On the Islanders side, like, the Islanders top line is just getting destroyed by Carolina. It's getting ran over by Gensel, Aho, and Svechnikov mostly. Now, they were good in the regular season. They've been getting like rolled over in the playoffs. So I'm not too high on them. Like, you're right. That Carolina top line is just an absolute wagon. Like, in the playoffs, they're at 35 shot attempts against per 60 minutes. Like, it's just absolutely surreal. That's like prime Jordan Stahl numbers. You know what I mean? That's how bad that they've been beating in the brains of that Islanders top line. So I have no interest in them. The second line has been better. They did have good offensive numbers with Fasching down the stretch of the regular season, 3.9 expected goals for, 2.7 against. But again, they're also getting rolled over in the playoffs. That second line with Fasching, 86 shot attempts against per 60 minutes in the playoffs. Now, this is where I mentioned that Carolina has had a really tough time hitting the net, and it's something pretty extreme. Like, they're landing 30 shots per 78 so far in the playoffs on net. That's about 38% of their shot attempts are actually landing on goal. That is a big problem. You actually have to hit the net to score some goals. But that second line from the Islanders is getting pretty rolled. The third line from the Islanders is where I think things get a little bit interesting for me. Lee Pajot and Engvall, 9,700 on DraftKings. They're up to 85 minutes together, regular season plus playoffs. 6.3 expected goals for in 85 minutes. that, quite frankly, that's a preposterous total. That is something that you would see like Colorado 1 put up in a small sample, or Toronto 1 when they're really humming along in a small sample, or like Wyatt Johnston on the top line with Dallas. Like that's the type of offense that they're generating. Now, this is where we should know Anders Lee typically pumps up expected goals numbers because he lives around the crease. He has a tough time finishing, which is why the goals rates don't often match the expected goals rates. But it's the only line that has really been generating anything for the Islanders at 5-on-5. So Lee, Pajot, and Engvall, 9,700. They fit in with Colorado 1. I'm still not completely sold on Carolina's goaltending. Like Carolina's goaltending, let's be honest, has not been that great in the playoffs. Like they haven't been bad. Don't get me wrong. But it's not like their goaltending. It's the goaltending that's winning them games. And at 9,700, like you don't really need more than like one perfectly correlated goal to just kind of be happy with what they do, right? So I think if anything on the Islanders side, it's the third line that I like, and pairing them with Colorado. Other than that, I don't think there's any reason to play the Islanders. So for me, I think this is a game more about the depth players than it is about the top stars. So Carolina 3 and Islanders 3 for me in that order.
Yeah, in single entry, I agree. But in MME, I definitely want a piece of that top line just on the off chance that they start hitting the net, because if they do, they're going to score a bunch of goals. Colorado Avalanche with a 3.3 total. Heading into Winnipeg, the Jets have a 3.2. Rick Bowness, baby.
So
finally putting Nick
before you kick off and talk about the lines, I was looking at the expected goals numbers, and I mentioned this on Twitter. The San Jose Sharks had losses this season by 9 goals, 8 goals, 7 goals, and a 6-goal loss to Seattle in November. The expected goals against in that game was like 14.5. Winnipeg's at about 17.5 against Colorado so far. Colorado has been putting up more expected goals against this Winnipeg Jets team than San Jose's 4 worst losses of the season. That's how bad Colorado is. I was going to say something incredibly vulgar, is beating their brains in. Like we say beating their brains in a lot. This is something that you almost never see in the playoffs unless it's like the 2008 Detroit Red Wings against an 8 seed. But that's not what this is. Winnipeg is the higher seed in this matchup, and they are getting absolutely destroyed. I've never seen anything like this.
It's bad coaching. Here's the thing. Connor, Scheifele, Velarde don't work. There's a sample over 200 minutes. They're not good offensively. They're not good defensively. Mark Scheifele's numbers with Ehlers and Velarde are night and day difference. And when I kick it to Cliffy, he will highlight that for you, I'm sure. It took until Game 5 for Rick Bowness to put Ehlers back on the top line. It should have been from Game 1. We'll give him a pass on Game 1 and 2 because they're sending out the Lowry line against McKinnon, who just ran them absolutely out of the rink. Game 3 and 4 in Colorado 1's matching against that top line. If you throw Nikolai Ehlers up there, they maybe have a chance. Now, okay, at 5-on-5, yeah, maybe they have a chance. The issue is, irregardless of who is on that top line, Colorado power play has been running Winnipeg's penalty kill over. There's nothing they can do about that. It doesn't matter who they have out there. Colorado's power play, there's no answers for it. So this is probably their best lineup. You can argue Toffoli shouldn't be on the 4th line, but we also should argue that Cole Perfetti shouldn't have been scratched for half the season. So at least they're putting Ehlers on the top line. It gives them their best shot at a good top 6. Yes, the second line was good with Toffoli there, but the top line with Connor was awful. With Ehlers switched and Perfetti on the second line, it gives them a top 6 that avoids the McKinnon line and gives them a chance to score a 5-on-5. Are they still going to win this series? They would have to beat Colorado 3 in a row. That is a daunting task, and that is a coaching error on Bonus's part for not doing that in game 1. In DFS today, though, and that's all that matters, Winnipeg 1 interests me at 15,500, 11.5% top 2 stack, 15.7% projected ownership. Scheifele, Velarde, Ehlers. They're going to get middle 6 matchups of the Avs. And let's not pretend that the Avs are some defensive juggernaut like Carolina. They have the same goaltending issues as Carolina. They're just not a very good defensive team. And if you're going to give me Scheifele, Velarde, Ehlers with very good numbers this season in a large sample, I like Winnipeg 1 here at 15,500. Winnipeg 2 is also interesting because Monahan and Connor have been good. Perfidi is good, regardless of what Bonus has been doing. Now, with Toffoli on the 4th line, it's only a matter of time before Toffoli pops back up there, and that does worry me about full stacking the 2nd line. But I think a Monahan Connor for the power play is a fine 2-man. I do like Winnipeg 1 here for sure. The biggest question on this slate is what to do with Colorado 1. Because they're 24,500. That's almost 50% of your salary. They have a 48.9% top 2 stack, 17.5% projected ownership. It's just because of the price, right? And yeah, McKinnon is going to probably be upwards of 30%, but Rantanen will be lower. And Nishushkin, I think Rantanen will be the lowest owned of the 3. I think it goes McKinnon, then Nishushkin, then Rantanen, just because of Rantanen's price. It's a lot easier to fit Makarin with Nishushkin than it is with Rantanen. But I think if you play Colorado 1 here, I think you full stack. Or you do something like McKinnon, Nishushkin, Lekin, and Makar. You know what I mean? You get a little bit funky with the power play stacks because, as Cliffy said to me, and he'll explain it to you after, he said it to me before the show, McKinnon's 5-on-5 numbers have not been great this series. It's just the fact that he plays so damn much and the power play is humming that he makes an elite play. And Colorado 1 is easily the best play of the night for all those reasons. They're fully correlating the power play. They play a ton of minutes, and they've been running over the Jets on the penalty kill. So, yeah, if you are spending up for Colorado, yeah, best play of the night. It's just a matter of who you're going to fit them in with. But I don't think you should discount Winnipeg 1 or Winnipeg 2 here. I also do like Colorado 2, but I think it's one of those things where, like, if I'm going to do like a middle stat Lehkonen 2-man, I'm going to want to add in McKinnon because stacking Colorado without McKinnon just feels like you're cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah.
As Clayton just asked.
Yeah. I'll start on the Winnipeg side because you mentioned the top lines numbers. And yes, Ehlers, Scheifele, and Velarde, 3.8 expected goals for, 2.8 against, 4.6 actual goals for, 1.7 against. Legitimately great numbers, both expected and actual on the ice at 5-on-5 in a 210-minute sample. That's why we said that Kyle Connor should have been on the 2nd line to start the series, but here we are. And that's important because they are going to go into the 2nd and 3rd lines from Colorado. And that 3rd line, especially Colton and Wood, have been giving up quite a bit offensively. Their defensive numbers in the regular season, honestly, were not that great. And in the playoffs, 68 shot attempts, 3.8 expected goals, 3.2 actual goals against per 60 minutes for Colton and Wood. Now, Scheifele and Velarde aren't going to see a ton of them. They're going to see a little bit more of the 2nd line. The 2nd line has been good, offensively at least. But it does give them easier matchups away from Nathan McKinnon and basically being terrified of every single turnover ending up in the back of their net. You don't really have those same concerns if you're matched up against Ross Colton and Miles Wood. So it is interesting to have Winnipeg at 15.7% ownership, 11.5% top 2 stack, because basically they basically only just don't fit with Colorado. Like, you can put them in with everybody else. Now, you'd have to punt double defenseman, go cheap goalie with the Islanders, or with Carolina 1, sorry. But other than that, like, you can basically put them with anybody that you want. Still get 2 out of 3 guys on the top power play unit. Like Scheifele at the least is going to get a lot of minutes. I do worry. The concern you brought about Perfidi being moved down for Toffoli eventually at some point in the game, I think is a very valid one. I also have the same one for Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers. Like, how long, if this is a 1-0 Colorado game to start the second period, is Kyle Connor getting moved up? I would say probably yes. I don't think they should, but I do think that that's what Rick Bowness would do. That's kind of the problem here is like, unless Winnipeg steps on their throat pretty early, 2 or 3-0 in the first half of the game, I think you're going to see the lines jumbled. That's why, like, I'm kind of hesitant to rely on Winnipeg, but I would say focusing on the power play guys, at least like a Scheifele Velarde 2-man, I think makes a lot of sense. You brought up Connor and Monahan. I think that makes a lot of sense as well. You know, the Winnipeg third line, been good during the playoffs. Like, I don't know how you can ask for much more than them being basically break even by shot attempts, 2.4 expected goals for, 1.9 against, and they're outscoring the opposition. So, like, they have been playing fine, and they're going to be matched up against McKinnon, and that means that they're going to get some decent ice time. They've been getting 13 to 15 minutes during the playoffs. So, I don't mind the third line, but I think it's Scheifele, Velarde, Ehlers I like. I would probably just be more tempted to full stack them in a 20 max or something like that, right? If I'm playing single entry and my one entry is basically banking on Rick Bowness not changing the lines 20 minutes into the game, I feel kind of weird, scary about that. In that situation, I might just focus more on the power play guys. On the Colorado side, it's like I wrote up Colorado 1. Like, there's nothing else to say. They haven't been great in the playoffs, but they were great in the regular season. And it's the power play that has been the difference. Like, Winnipeg, I think, is giving them just shy of 4 power plays per game. I think it's 15 power play opportunities in 4 games. If you give Colorado 4 power play opportunities a game and you're a bottom third penalty kill in the league, pack your bags. Like, it's just that simple. It's like the penalty kill is not good, but you also can't take 4. Like, they took 3 penalties in that second period on Sunday, and it was game over after that. Like, if they keep doing that, Colorado's going to fill the net again. So yeah, I really do love Colorado 1 here. It's just a matter of lineup construction. You know, if you use Colorado 1, then you're looking at Islanders 3, Carolina 3, Boston 3, Nashville depth. Like, we'll get to that in the next game, but then you're starting to weaken your you're just taking up a lot of salary. I couldn't really think of the right words there. It's the last show of the season anyway. I do like Colorado 1. Colorado 2 is kind of interesting to me because Middlestat and Lehkonen, 70 shot attempts for, 46 against during the regular season, 3 expected goals for, 2.1 against, 4 actual goals for after Middlestat got acquired at the trade deadline. And those numbers are even better in the playoffs. They've been the best 5-on-5 line for Colorado in the playoffs. The problem is like, you only get Lehkonen on the top power play. It's one of those things where, like, you know, if Winnipeg pulls out a 4-2 win or something here and Colorado doesn't do much on the power play, I could see both goals coming from this second line. You know what I mean? It feels bad to stack Colorado without McKinnon, but that second line's not getting a ton of ownership. They are one of the lines that would fit in with Carolina 1. I do like Lehkonen as a one-off specifically. Like, that line's just been good, whether it was the regular season or whether it's been in the playoffs, and they're going to avoid Adam Lowry, which means they're going to get better matchups against that Winnipeg top 6. So I kind of do like Colorado 2 here, but it's Colorado 1 that is definitely in play for me. I think Colorado onslaught is perfectly fine, like the top line, and then add in Colton and Wood, and then add in, you know, Middlestat and Parise, like something like that. I think that's perfectly fine. But Colorado 1, Winnipeg 1, I kind of would rather focus on the Winnipeg power play guys, whereas on the Colorado side, I honestly don't mind their depth in this matchup.
It's pretty funny because the first few games of this series in Winnipeg are like, oh man, going into Winnipeg is a tough task. And they just ran them over. And it's just like, now, how much Colorado should we have in Winnipeg? You know what I mean? It's crazy how quick series can change. Internet is still struggling. Ain't that a scene? Nashville Predators with a 2.7 total heading into Vancouver. The Canucks have a 2.9. That end of that game was just brutal. Sissons hit the post on the empty net. They blew a 2-goal lead with 3 minutes to go, lost in the first minute of overtime. That's just an unbelievably bad loss. I don't know how you come back from that, especially having to fly to Vancouver after that. Seconds away from tying the series up, and you have that devastating loss like that. Now you have to fly to Vancouver. I don't know how you recover. They're professionals, so maybe they do. But I don't know. We were talking about this game beforehand. It's not like Vancouver's playing great. So I don't know. But the one line that has been very good all series is Miller, Besser, Suter. They're coming in at 8.5% projected ownership. Besser's coming off a monster game, so he's probably his ownership's going to be a bit inflated. Walmart Internet. It's not really Walmart Internet. It's just where I am in the country. There's more silos than cell towers by me, so I don't know. But I do like the Miller, Besser, Suter line, and they haven't been using them in a shutdown role. They've been sending out Lindholm, Garland, Joshua against Ryan O'Reilly at home. So they're going to be seeing second and third line matchups for Nashville, and there's nothing really to be worried about there. I do really like Miller, Besser, Suter again. Like, they're only 16,000. Their ownership is fine. And you can't fit them with Colorado, but you can't really fit much with Colorado. The Garland, Lindholm, Joshua line at 11.7 is coming in with more ownership at half the top two stack. Like, I get it because they kind of fit with Colorado, but at the same time, they're going to be seeing O'Reilly, Forsberg, Nyquist. And yeah, they aren't great defensively, but they're good offensively. And Lindholm, Garland, Joshua aren't great defensively. So I feel like it's a bit better matchup for Ryan O'Reilly. So if you are playing Colorado 1, it's fine, but I kind of prefer depth of Carolina, depth of Boston, you know what I mean? Especially where you're going to get them at way less ownership. They're fine. It's just an ownership thing for me. Pedersen line, like, they're $200 more than the Lindholm line. They just have not been good all season, or all series. Pedersen hasn't been great. Now, I think a Pedersen one-off is fine. It's expensive, and it'll probably be contrarian, and you just kind of hope he gets going. That line just hasn't been good. On the Nashville side, that Nashville top line, 18.1, 18.5% top two stack, 12.6% projected ownership. No idea who's going to be in net. I don't know if it's going to be DeSmith back or what. It doesn't particularly matter. But they're not going to be seeing that JT Miller-Besser shutdown line, which has been excellent. Lindholm, Garland, Joshua hasn't been great. So I do have some interest in Nashville 1, which is the first time I can say that this series. I do have interest there, but I also have interest in the depth. It's just a matter of which line avoids JT Miller. I think it's going to be Novak Evangelista. I don't know for sure. Cliffy might be able to clear that up a little bit better than me. I do have some interest in whatever line avoids the JT Miller line, though.
There is no clearing that up. It's just whenever the Nashville top line is off the ice, it's whoever's on is going to see JT Miller, whether it's the second, third, fourth lines. Like, that's kind of the thing. That works both ways too, right? That also means like there's no Nashville depth line that's going to be hard matched against JT Miller. So maybe they see him like for 2 or 3 shifts, but like that's basically it for the whole game. So it's the Miller line I like best. I wrote about it in the picks article, free to read over at Stokastic.com. Head on over to the NHL section. Vancouver is generating 3.9 expected goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 through 4 games with the Miller line on the ice. That is about double the rate when they're off the ice, which means they're generating most of the offense. They've scored 2 of the 6 goals at 5-on-5 for Vancouver, and Miller's figured in on both power play goals. Like, this line is the story is going to, if Vancouver moves on, the story is going to be the goalie stepping up for an injured Thatcher Demko. but the goalies aren't even in a position to step up if the JT Miller line isn't carrying the offense, which is exactly what they've been doing. Now, the Vancouver third line, I think, has had 2 goals, one from the blue line, I believe, and one from one of the forwards. So they have been doing work.
The OT.
But yeah, you're right. But it is the Vancouver top line that has been basically carried over what they did in the regular season. Like in the regular season, they're at 3.7 expected goals per 60 minutes. In the playoffs, they're at 3.9 expected goals per 60 minutes. Like they've just been really, really good regular season and playoffs. So I do like that Vancouver line. They're not coming in with that much ownership, 8.5%, 7.9% top 2 stack. I worry about people chasing the Brock Besser hat trick and the fact that JT Miller is figuring in on all their goals pretty much, half of them. But it has been by far, and I do mean by far, Vancouver's best line. So if I'm full stacking anything, it's Miller, Besser, and Suter. I think like a 2-man of like Garland and Lindholm or something like that is fine because they do get reasonable amounts of ice time because they're using a shutdown matchup. They're used on the penalty kill and stuff like that. But like that Pettersson line, like Pettersson's having the same problem that Andrei Svechnikov I was talking about earlier, just even worse. Like he's not hitting the net whatsoever so far this season, in the postseason, and it's a huge problem. Pettersson is taking 15 shot attempts per 60 minutes, and he's hitting the net on 3 of them per 60 minutes, like literally 20% of the time. So like he's not even shooting at a high volume for his attempt rate, and the shots that he is taking just aren't landing anywhere close to the net. So, or they're getting blocked, and Nashville has been blocking a lot of shots. So I don't really have a ton of interest in stacking that line. I agree with you. I think a Pettersson one-off is fine. But if I'm full stacking anything, it's Miller, Besser, Suter, and it's not even close. The Nashville side, I do have interest in the top line. They haven't been great in the playoffs, but they're all playing over 20 minutes a game. They're all perfectly correlated on the power play. Vancouver's penalty kill has legitimately been great, though, and it was towards the end of the regular season as well. So that's another thing that has just carried over. Philip Forsberg, 22 shot attempts per 60 in the playoffs. Like he's shooting the puck quite a bit. There's not that much ownership coming in on them. 12.6% against an 18.5% top 2 stack. On DraftKings here tonight, they're probably the best option, I think, in that price range because I like Carolina and Colorado are kind of in their own tier. After that, like the Matthews line, if he does play, the Pasternak line, then you're getting to the cheap lines. Like Nashville would be my favorite, like 18K-ish line. It's just not a price range that I'm specifically targeting here today. I wrote up Colton Sissons in the picks article. His expected goals rate is 32% higher than the next closest Nashville forward in the playoffs so far. He is getting to the net pretty much at will, and he's getting like 17 minutes a game. So if you want a 2-man like Sissons and Zucker, Sissons and Beauvillier, something like that, I don't have a ton of faith in this Vancouver goaltending these last 2 games aside. Like any 2 goalies can win any 2 games in the NHL. That's just kind of how goaltending works. I don't have a ton of faith in them. They're not Thatcher Demko. I do like Sissons, like a Sissons Beauvillier 2-man if you're trying to fit in some Colorado stuff. But it's the Miller line I like best in this game, and it's honestly not that close.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. This would normally be the time when I would tell you what's coming up next, but I just wanted to, since it's our last show, just, talk about the season a little bit. I'm not going to get emotional, but I just wanted to thank some people. Thank you guys. So as you know, we had a little bit of I don't want to call it tumultuous change in the middle of the season, but previous seasons, I'll be 100% honest with you, we got paid per show. And we know that of the major sports in DFS, NHL is at the bottom of the totem pole. And we know that. We're not expecting preferential treatment or anything like that. We just wanted a platform. And the guys in our company, Stochastic, they came to us and said, listen, we want to switch how you guys are getting paid. It's going to give you a chance to, kind of bet on yourself. I'm a big proponent of betting on myself, even though I needed some pep talk from Cliffy to accept the offer. But they wanted to switch us to the affiliate program. And, they didn't want to lose us, and they said, we want to give you the platform. And so we accepted that offer. And, we just wanted the platform to bring the show to give you guys valuable information. And those guys were Jake Hari. He's the director of DFS strategy. We call him the head of NHL. There really isn't the head of NHL, but he did hire both of us. So we call him our boss. Nolan Kelly, he's the director of content. He's also the director of telling me my articles suck, even though I said I didn't want to write. But I did anyway. I'm not a very good writer, not the best speaker, but you throw me in front of the camera, I can be a bit entertaining. And then Greg Ehrenberg, he's the director of DFS. He's the one who came to us in the meeting and pitched that to us. And of course, our CEO, who hails from Green Bay, Wisconsin, weighing in at 246 pounds, Mr. Kennedy. Our CEO, Tom Kennedy. They gave us the platform, but again, without you guys, bet on ourselves, and without you guys, with the affiliates and the super chats, it made a very easy decision for us to show up every day and work. You guys showed us a tremendous amount of support, and without you guys, we wouldn't have been here this long. I was telling Cliffy before the show, we've been doing shows by ourselves we're 6.5 months in now, and this is our last show. We've done it. Jake didn't even make an appearance this year. He usually does, but it's just been us for 6.5 months doing shows. And we honestly, without those guys giving us the platform and your guys' support, we would not have been here this long. And I hope our CEO, Tom Kennedy, has a sense of humor.
Yeah, not a bad impression, by the way. I kind of like that. Pretty well done. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot more to add. That was a tough change. Pretty much right in the middle of the season, like a couple months in. We honestly weren't sure what the response would be. And we weren't sure, literally, we were kind of outlining, what are we going to do after the All-Star break once interest really falls off. But the support from the community has kept the show on to this point. And honestly, we've gone later calendar wise because of delays and stuff in pandemic seasons or whatever. But I think this is pretty much the latest that we've gone in the NHL schedule itself since before the pandemic. And it's been because of the support from the people that watch the show, that, retweet our tweets, that subscribe to the channel, that send us the super chats, that sign up for Stokastic through the affiliate links. All those things really added up to a lot to keep us on the air right until April 30th, when we were kind of expecting to be off the air, honestly, 12 weeks ago. And it's I'm just very thankful for that. I love doing this. I know things can get hairy when you're breaking down the San Jose Sharks and Chicago Blackhawks for the third time in a week. But I really do enjoy doing this and coming here every day with Josh. And I do have to send a shout out to Jake Hari as well. He's one of the best people that I've been able to work for. I've been writing about fantasy for over a decade now, professionally for 7 or 8 years now. And he's been one of the best guys that I've had to work for. So thanks to him. I'd also like to thank the editors on the back end that helped me with my writing, Tommy Stocky, Nathan Joyce, people like that, whether it's with the editing, whether it's with articles, whether it's with pods, things like that. So thanks to them, but thanks a lot to the community. It's really meant a lot to us, and it's just a special thing that we've been able to keep this going through as long as that we have. And like Josh said, we're going to be on Twitter. We're still going to be in the Discord. For the rest of the playoffs. So if anybody's got questions, feel free to fire them over. But just thanks a lot for all the support over the last 4 months.
Yeah, I wanted to do that at the beginning of the show, but my internet wasn't good enough, and I wanted to have I wanted to do the Mr. Kennedy, because I have to do an impression on the last show of the season. But we have a 1999 super chat from Tyler Tennell, better known as Daily Deposit Frostback. Since Haas left, he's been taking the brunt of my I don't know what to call it, but he's been taking the brunt of it. So thank you for that. Most enjoyable DFS season yet. Thanks for all the insight and work this season, boys, and especially thank you for all the memes. My most profitable season, just because you post your goalie play and I stack against, and I just been printing. I wish I did that. I would have been insanely profitable. I had a good season regardless, but appreciate you in the Discord. You handle my ribbing well. I'm an acquired taste, as some of the people in the chat know. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. You're fun to talk to in chat, and you can handle my shit.
You saw me in chat. I'm right here.
Yeah, there's.
Can you subscribe to me?
Yeah.
Wait, no.
I'll put your channel in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm losing subscribers, so I need some.
Yeah, I'll drop your channel in there so you can get more subscribers.
Yeah, just thanks a lot. Okay. Thanks a lot, Frostback. Certainly appreciate the super chat. Certainly appreciate being in the community and being a good sport about all the jokes that we've kind of made at your expense. But
wait, you guys were joking?
Yeah, it's a good point. But yeah, certainly appreciate you being a positive member of the Discord, and hopefully we can keep helping each other out through the postseason.
Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about some defensemen and goalies before we leave you guys until October. Obviously, the number one play on the board for me is Cale Makar. Not close. He is 8,200. It is very expensive to get him in. But, if you're jamming Colorado, you might as well – he's back in the chat. You might as well play Makar. After that, I don't know, right? Like, I want to get behind Morrissey here. I just don't know. Like, in the top end, outside of Makar, like, I'm not super excited about spending up. Like, yeah, Quinn Hughes, but, like, his peripherals aren't great. No, Dobson's in a tough spot. Yossi's in a tough spot just because Vancouver doesn't give up a lot of shots and they don't take a lot of shots. So it would probably be Makar, then Charlie McAvoy, and then probably Brady Shea, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Makar is my number one, like, not even close. And a lot of it's because of the power play. Like, I think Yossi's playable, but again, it's that peripherals thing, right? Like, Vancouver just doesn't take or give up a lot of shots. And it's tough for Josi to rack up those shots and blocks that really do make him so valuable in DFS. I think he's fine, but for me, it'd be more of like 20 max. Like, maybe I have one or two Josi to kind of get away from Makar a little bit. Mid-price range, like, I don't think he's a good defenseman, but Neil Pionk is still getting ice time, and he's going to have to probably block some shots at 4K. Charlie McAvoy, I think, very much in play in this matchup against Toronto. Devin Taves is only getting like a minute less per game than Cale Makar is, and McHale runs the top power play unit. So, like, Taves is getting some serious ice time everywhere but the top power play. So I know he had a big game a couple games ago. I don't mind Taves at his price in the mid-price range. For cheap defensemen, I wrote up Alex Romanoff. He's basically been the Islanders' number 2 during the postseason. He had that one big game where he had eight shot blocks. Probably going to have to do something close to that again for the Islanders to move on, especially where blocks are valuable on DK. Don't mind him at 3,600. Mason Lohrei, he's running the Pasternak power play unit now with Kevin Shattenkirk scratch, so he's going to see some additional power play minutes against a very bad Toronto penalty kill. Josh Manson got over 20 minutes last game. Sometimes he's been playing more than Sean Walker, so he's kind of like the number 3 for Colorado, I guess. I don't mind him. Dylan DeMello, it's kind of like a cheaper Pionk. You know what I mean? Like, he's probably going to get 21, 22, 23 minutes and probably have to block a lot of shots. But I really do like Romanoff, Lohrei, and Manson. Jalen Chatfield. Brett Pesce was still out. That Chatfield-Orlov pair played more than any other defenseman for Carolina in that double overtime game. Like, more than Burns and Shea. If they're going to play that much, which we'll see in game 5, like, it was just one game, we don't really know. But I think it's worth a gamble. Jalen Chatfield, mid-price, 2,500, or just, spend up a little bit for Orlov if you have the salary.
Yep. And I popped into Discord real quick while you were talking, and Jake shared a tweet from reporter Chris It says, while the Leafs haven't officially ruled Austin Matthews out, he's unlikely to be healthy enough to play tonight with their season on the line. So he is doubtful tonight.
And see, that's the thing is like, even if he does try to gut it out, how long does he play and how healthy is he actually? Like, that's tough, man.
Yeah, Mitch Marner, quite the virus, sucking the life out of Austin Matthews. No, hopefully he feels better on the golf course next week. Let's go. Let's go to goalies here before I get strongly worded letters from Toronto fans. Let's see here. Obviously, Swayman. Like, regardless of the Toronto situation, Swayman has been incredible this series. I think going back to Swayman makes some sense here. Varlamov, obviously, it's 7K, especially with that Carolina top line missing the net all the time. Like the insane volume that Carolina puts up hasn't been there in the playoffs just because they can't hit the net. But the thing is, like, there hasn't been a slate-breaking goalie score. You haven't seen like a 41 save shutout. You know what I mean? So like Varlamov, even if he sees like 29 shots, gives up 2 goals and they lose, that won't kill you. I think it's an interesting night to go to Hellebuck. Now, you had a tweet about the shot distance that he's facing, and that definitely doesn't help him. But the volume that he sees is insane. And if anyone can steal a game from the goalies left in the playoffs right now, it's Connor Hellebuck. So I think it's an interesting GPP play. Like Georgiev and Silvos, like I don't know. Like I think it would be, honestly, it's going to be Swayman, Varlamov, or Hellebuck for me.
Yeah, those are my 3 goalies. Like I have Varlamov and Swayman in a tier above. Like if I have the money to spend up, I go to Swayman. If I don't have the money, I just go down to Varlamov. I will say, like, I think Freddie Anderson, assuming he starts, is fine because he does have reasonable shutout equity against an Islanders team that just really can't score. It's not hard to see Anderson having like a 17 save shutout or something like that. But for me, it is Swayman or Varlamov. And I did have Hellebuck just because of the volume, right? Like if Colorado doesn't pour it on the power play, Hellebuck can have like a 2-goal against with 33 saves or something like that. And whether he wins or loses, it's perfectly fine. But yeah, Varlamov and Swayman are the 2 goalies that are really on my list.
Yeah. Goalie's been kind of weird in the playoffs. You know what I mean? I know Swayman put up 30 in game 1 against Toronto, but after that, there really hasn't been a performance over 25 points, I don't think. Well, there has been like Stewie Skinner, but he's not on the slate. Of the goalies playing today, there hasn't been like anything. Who do you like him for your hat trick pick?
Well, he's been one of my favorite players to watch kind of grow over the last few years. I even have like a meme that, not I do. The meme is from an Avengers movie, but one of my favorite young players to watch in the league. I'm going to go with Seth Jarvis.
Yeah, I was going to go with a Leaf, but then I was like, why would I do that? I'm going to go Colton Sissons.
Yeah. David Kampf.
Yeah, David Kampf saving the Leaf season. They'll probably still lose if he has a hat trick. But
David Kampf hat trick, lose 4-3.
Oh, God, I love hating the Leafs. But yeah, this will be our final sign-off of the season. I will still be doing MMA content. You'll see those on Thursdays on my Twitter. But thank you again to everybody this season. You guys have been incredible. Without your support, we wouldn't be here at the end of April. And good luck, everybody. We'll still be on Twitter. We'll still be in the Discord. So if you still have questions about some showdown slates or slates going forward, just hit us up. But this will be the last time you see us until October. Thank you again, and good luck.
Yep. Thanks again, everyone. Certainly appreciate all the support. Reach out if you have any questions, as Josh said. But until October, good luck tonight and good luck the rest of the way in the postseason.